Hello, welcome back to Bible Basics. I'm really excited for today because today we're really going to see the consequences of what it's like to follow Jesus and what it means to give your life for the gospel. So today we're reading Matthew 14, 1 through 12. A little history on the author, Matthew. He is the author. He's one of the 12 disciples. So he has a first-hand account of Jesus. His intended audience was a Jewish audience to convince him that Jesus was the Messiah. He will quote the Old Testament frequently to back up his claims. In this chapter, Jesus is gaining popularity, but he's gaining enemies just as quickly. So before we start, there's a little history that we should go over. During this time, Israel was under Roman rule. So they had invaded Israel and they were the ones that were over them. And the Romans, they wanted to have local leaders be people from that region. So he installed Herod, who was a tetrarch, who was essentially a governor. It's like if the governor of California. So he can rule over this area, but he's not in charge of anything else. There's a higher rule above him. And one of the things that he did was he married his brother's wife, which was considered very immoral under Jewish law and would still be considered moral today. And also John the Baptist, he was the one who prepared the way for Jesus. So he was a very popular prophet and the people loved him. He was baptizing people left and right, and he was just getting the people prepared for Jesus' arrival. John the Baptist beheaded. At the time, Herod the Tetrarch heard the reports about Jesus and said to his attendants, "This is John the Baptist. He has risen from the dead. That is why miraculous powers are at work in him." So at this point, he had already killed John the Baptist, and what we're about to read is essentially a flashback of how that happened. That's why he says he's risen from the dead. That's why he believes Jesus is John the Baptist risen from the dead, but that's not the case. That's just what he believes at the time. So now we're going to read on how he actually got to kill John. Now Herod had arrested John and bound him and put him in prison because of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife. For John had been saying to him, "It is not lawful for you to have her." Herod wanted to kill John, but he was afraid of the people because they considered John a prophet. Now I get it. No one likes to be called out. No one likes to be reminded of the sins they committed and when they're living a bad lifestyle. But if you're humble enough, there's room to grow. If we're stubborn and we say, "No, I don't want to listen to anything," then that's when this problem really arises. On Herod's birthday, the daughter of Herodias danced for the guests and pleased Herod so much that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she asked. Prompted by her mother, she asked, "Give me here on a platter the head of John the Baptist." The king was distressed, but because of his oath and his dinner guests, he ordered that her request be granted. So I'm sure he was very distressed. Here's what I think. I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. I think he set the whole thing up. I think he threw this party to have witnesses, and he instructed his wife to tell her daughter to dance for him and to make a big show of it. And then he'll say, "I'll give her whatever she wants." And then she makes a show of it to ask her mom, and her mom tells her to give her the head of John the Baptist. So I believe it was all orchestrated for him to get away with it and to still get the favor of the people, because he can use the excuse that, "Oh, I was bound by this oath. I had no choice but to kill him." That way he stays face. Essentially, he committed the perfect crime. That's what I think. And had John beheaded in prison. His head was brought in on a silver platter and given to the girl, who carried it to her mother. John's disciples came and took his body and buried it. Then they went and told Jesus. The thing I want to highlight more than anything is that following Jesus will come at a cost. Now, it won't always be your life. Some people, it is their life, but sometimes it'll be a job, it'll be a relationship, it'll be a hobby. It'll always cost you something to follow Jesus. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. There's always going to be something that costs you. For me, it was relationships. There was people that I was hanging around with that I shouldn't have, that were bad influences, and I had to cut them off from my life. It cost me those relationships. But here's the thing, God always wins. So Herod had essentially committed the perfect crime. He got away with it. He killed his main opposition. But shortly after this, another kingdom came and invaded his. And the only reason it was stopped is because the Romans put a stop to it. They got in the middle of it and they told him to stop. That's the only reason why. If not, they would have killed the whole kingdom. And then shortly after this, he got in a fight with another king or another governor, and he was actually exiled from his land. So think about it. He was this ruler who had all this power, who had all this wealth, and he was exiled. He was banished to another land where he had nothing, where he was a nobody. There are faiths worse than death, and God punishes accordingly. Because God could have killed him then and there, but he wanted him to suffer. He suffered in a foreign land where he knew nothing about, and he went from all the way to the top to all the way to the bottom. We might not see God's justice, but God is working. And we just have to be patient that it's not our job to dish out justice, it's God's job. And to trust He would do what He needs to do. I appreciate you watching this. Hope you learned something. I encourage you to read this on your own because the Bible is so rich that anytime you read it, you'll get something different, and something different will speak out to you. So just make sure you read your Bible. See you guys next time. Bye.